And my name is Annika Bjelkevik, and I'm the Vice Chair of the ICOLD Tailings Committee. And I have 3 other colleagues from the Tailings Committee who's going to speak later on today. And we also have Claudia Kemke from UNECE on Teams, who's going to present at the end of the short course what they are doing. So it's we're 5 presenters. And first, I just want to wish you very welcome to this course. And the reason we want to give this short course is to promote the awareness of the new bulletin and keep on educating people about tailings and support the use of this bulletin. It's a hard work to prepare a bulletin and publish it, but I think that the most challenging part is to get the knowledge from the bulletin out to people. And the most important thing today, I think, is that we also have good discussions. So feel free to ask questions and raise opinions or whatever during the day. So it's we don't really want to see us just presenting from here and you trying to listen and then leave. We want to encourage discussions. So this is the schedule. I'm gonna just give some introductions and a brief overview of the whole of the bulletin, and then my other colleagues will go in deeper into some parts of the bulletin. Which is consequence classification and design criteria, hydro with Andy Small, and hydrotechnical design and water management with David Brett. And then we will have a coffee break at 10 to 10. And the coffee break is where it's been every day at the exhibition area. So it's a little bit of a walk to get there. But we have half an hour for that. And then safe tailings dam management and governance with Paul, and then Claudia from UNECE. And we have a full hour of time for discussion after, but that time can also be used sort of during this morning. So we don't need to save the discussions to the end, which gonna end up maybe change the schedule a little bit. But we'll take it as it goes. So the introductions. I want to talk a little bit about why is tailings dam safety important, and I guess that's not a new question to you all. I guess everyone sort of knows why it's important, but also a historical perspective in a way, and a little bit put the new bulletin into a global context. So the text is fairly small in the figure here, but tailings dams have a history about 100 years, a little bit more now, maybe. And in the beginning, the tailings dams were small. The volume of tailings was not so much, and the dams were fairly small. I don't believe that the information on how many tailings dams failures that there were in the beginning is complete. We probably don't know all of them. But in the 70s or in the 40s, high capacity earth moving equipment was introduced, and then it was easier to build larger dams. And then in the 60s, the increase in production and large dams, larger tailings dams, was quite significant, and that also increased the number of failures. So you're welcome to find there is almost a full empty table at the front here. So please come and have a seat in the front. And then when the geotechnical engineering started to become better, we could see a slight decrease in the number of failures. And then in the 90s and how do you say the 2000 period, we have the use of computer analysis as well that decreased the failure. The colors here shows the reason for the failures. I can see that the slope stability issues decreased, but a number of other reasons like overtopping has not really decreased. So we still have too many tailings dams failures, an average of about 2 tailings dams failures per year, and also some causing some deaths still, and that's not really acceptable. We have thought that tailings dams have a higher failure rate than water dams, but to get the rate of how many dams that fail, you need to know the number of failures and the total number of tailings dams. And we're working on a global tailings dam register and starting to realize that there are much more tailings dams than what assumed earlier. So the failure rate of tailings dams is actually the same as for water dams. And maybe all of you already know this web page, YC Uranium, where most failures are listed. And we do also know a lot of examples of tailings dams failures that have happened recently, or not just recently, but there is, we don't want to see this. And the question is, can this sort of happen to you? This is statistics from Nayan Rana, who's a member of our committee, and his thesis work. So that the failure rate is more or less constant over time. We see increasing volumes because the dams are getting larger. The failure modes continue to happen. And the number of fatalities are more or less the same. And this is something that the industry need to change. And the world response to this there has been a response to this, and professional bodies like the ICOLD, ANCOLD, and CDA and others are doing a lot of things before, but also now, even more now, and also industry guidelines like from ICMM and MAC. And as we heard as from the keynote speaker, John Houchin, yesterday, that the investors have had enough. And if the money doesn't come, the industry really have to change. So in August 2020, the standard came. And we also have this new institute, how to welcome. And also regulators. We know in Brazil, for example, a lot of regulations are changing. So a lot of things are happening. And for those of you who were in Ottawa, maybe you heard Michael David's presentation about the new standard, which was just before it came out, which is an initiative between the ICMM, Principle for Responsible Investment, and UN. And they produced the international standard, which is kind of divided into 3 levels. with the standard at the top, and then supporting guidance, governance guidance coming underneath. And then we have the technical guidance where we see that ICOLD can play a role, that we can help out with the technical guidelines. And we, as the ICOLD Tailings Dam Committee has over the years produced a number of bulletins with technical guidance. And the last one, Tailings Dam Safety, is on the ICOLD webpage as a preprint. We don't really know when it's going to be published and available for everyone. So at the moment, it's only members of ICOLD that can get hold of it. So that was an introduction, and the overview of the bulletin. We worked on this bulletin for about 4 years, and we had a working group with the people at the top, so people representing Canada, Australia, Sweden, Brazil, the Czech Republic, South Africa, US, and UK. But the rest of the members of the committee has also reviewed the bulletin. All the national member countries had the possibility to review the bulletin, and we received quite a few comments. And then also some international experts has been asked by us to review the bulletin as well. So we think it's kind of thoroughly worked through, but we're already looking at updating it. So we will see if it's going to be published before we have a version 2. So this is the outline of the bulletin. And I like to see the tailings dam safety and maybe other safety areas, visualize it like a three-legged stool, where governance is sort of the seat of the stool, and then you have design and construction and operation, and they're all important. You can't sit on the stool if those 4 parts are not there. And also the corporate culture within the dam owner company is also important, and I kind of visualize that with the material of the stool. If it's not a good material, it won't last for long anyway. So all these aspects are really important, and the bulletin focuses on the design, but the other parts are really equally important. And I also want to highlight that we have the third chapter is the closure chapter. Often closure has been around for a long time, that is really important, and you need to sort of plan for closure at the start, but often closure comes at the end of documents, and we really wanted to put it in the beginning of the document to emphasize it even further. And this is sort of the next level of headlines from the bulletin. The yellow marked ones will be covered by my colleagues from the committee in the coming presentations today. And the rest I will go through fairly briefly now. So closure needs to be included already from the start at the project. It's difficult if it's an old facility and closure was not included from the start, but as soon as possible, start planning for closure and construct and operate the facility towards closure. So in a way, I like to see mining operations as a measure to create the closure goal instead of just mining. So trying to make closure and goal equal to more or less the production to mine. And then we know that that planning for mining is not that easy. It's changing over time. You don't know when you start a new mine. I've never heard of a mine that have started and finished at the end of mine life that was originally set from the beginning. So things are changing, and we need to be flexible and review things and change as we go. And then when operation closes down, we have the transition phase, and after that, the closure measures are hopefully done, and we can just verify that the closure is working as expected during the active and passive care. And then chapter 5 is about the site characterization. So the characteristics of the site will give the conditions that have an impact on the design, construction, operation, and closure, and it's important that we have identified those correctly. And it should cover the whole dam site and with the dam site meaning not just the area of the tailings facility, but the surrounding and also the area where that can be impacted by a tailings dam failure. And if it's an existing facility, it also includes the deposited tailings and the characteristics of that material and the structures that are already in place. And it needs to be an iterative process as things might change over time. Climate change is one thing that we need to consider. And it should cover a wide range of different aspects, from social and environmental setting to geomorphology, morphology and climate and hydrology, geological and geotechnical conditions, and hydrogeology and seismicity, and maybe others like cultural things as well. We have that in Sweden. We need to consider old cultural things that might be in the area. And it requires a broad mix of professionals who have knowledge in all these different areas. And we sort of have only one chance to get it right from the beginning. We can, as it's also an iterative process, we can add data over time, but it's really important to get it right from the beginning. And then we have the tailings characterization. The characteristics of the tailings have a significant impact on the tailings facility, and especially for the upstream construction. And also for the dam breach studies, how it's going to behave if the dam break. And we really must understand what kind of material we have to deal with. And the previous bulletin, number 181, goes deep into this characterization of the tailings. And then we have the different phases of the design, and we need to go through those and maybe reassess and go back and recheck the design. So it goes from to identify the design basis and the conceptual design, look at different options, and planning and pre-feasibility, feasibility or detailed design, and then documentation and risk management. And documentation, I find, sounds very easy, but in reality it's very challenging. And I guess most of you know that for old tailings facilities, it might be really difficult to find documentation from the beginning. Seismic design criteria need to be considered, and especially for closure. And some areas, I mean, Sweden, we don't have so many seismic events in Sweden. Chile is the opposite, I guess, on the scale. And there is, even if you don't have a lot of seismic activities at the site, it still needs to be considered. It's we recommend to look at the site-specific, do a site-specific seismic hazard assessment, and understand the potential for liquefaction, which comes into the characterization of the tailings. And we also want to emphasize that ICOLD do not support the use of say, the static analysis. And is giving a good motivation to that in one of the recordings that we have on YouTube. I'll have a list with all the links to our YouTube recordings. So I won't go in deeper to that now. And also the stability analysis is in the same recording. Stability analysis is one of the key elements to define if the dam is safe or not. And often it's based on limit equilibrium analyses, which is adequate if the tailings material or the material within the dam structure and the foundation are dilative materials. And the figure with the soccer balls sort of symbolize the dilative properties, where if you're going to move the balls, then the volume has to expand. Otherwise, you can't change the geometry of the pyramid. But for contractive material, which is symbolized by the house of cards, the effort to get it to fail is very small. You barely have to touch one of the cards and it's all going to collapse. So we need to assess the residual strength for contractive materials. We need to consider drained and undrained situations. And the minimum factor of safety that we've put in the bulletin, which is target minimum factor of safety of 1.5 for static conditions and 1.1 for post-liquefaction conditions, does assume that leading international practice has been adopted with respect to the site characterization and selection of parameters and design methodology. So it's really, you can't really say that a dam is stable if someone says that the dam has a factor of 1.5. You need to understand how the calculation has been done and which assumption has been made. And alternatively, analysis can be done using advanced numerical models as well. And I think that is getting more and more common in the industry, which is good. So all tailings dams has to be analyzed for liquefaction, and it's often a critical failure mode for the upstream dams. And there should really be proof that all the materials within the dam and the foundation are dilative if liquefaction is not going to be analyzed. And we should consider both seismic and static triggers. And static triggers are difficult to assess, and we might not fully know them. So often we have to assume that they are there and not really believe that we can sort of identify if we know all of them or not. And the same conditions apply for closure. Liquefaction should be mitigated if it's possible for it to occur for closure. So this is the link for the recording where Andy is going through stability assessment, and the ICOLD Bulletin is addressing this in detail as well. And the section there is from Brumadinho. And the design of the facility is not the end. The following chapters in the bulletin: risk management, dam failure and breach analysis, emergency preparedness planning, construction and operations are equally important. There is ICOLD Committee on Public Awareness. They are starting now to write a bulletin on emergency preparedness and response planning, which is going to be a cooperation between us and some other committees as well. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that as well. So in summary, we believe that we've developed a comprehensive bulletin that cover all the aspects of the tailings dam safety considerations. And we know that the bulletin focusing mainly on the technical aspects to underpin these other industry initiatives. We pay particular attention to factors and methods affecting the water management and stability assessment. And we see this as our ICOLD's contribution to help eliminate tailings dams failures in the future. And we hope this is going to be a supplement to already existing regulations in different countries. And not, we haven't written the bulletin to replace regulations, but hope it will be included. And these are the recordings that we have on YouTube at the moment, and we're hoping to be able to publish recordings from this meeting as well on YouTube